Today, let's talk about self-destructive and addictive behavior for INFJs, how to detox from that situations, how to go to rehab, how to get out of it once and for all. And most of the time, the problem with all of this behavior is that it's not something that you see in society being represented very often, because our, addictive behaviors, our self-sabotaging behavior, let's shy away from, drugs or really hardcore abusive situations that are obvious to everybody. Like, even those situations have very often a different origin for INFJs. So most of our self-destructive and addictive behavior is first off something that is only bad for us. There isn't much negative consequence for other people. So people very often are not, calling us out for this. It's actually making other people comfortable. And so we don't have the examples. We don't see what the alternative is. And we don't really recognize what our biggest issue is. And today I really want to look into this because I found ways that work really, really well for me. It's still something that I work on. I don't ever think like I will be over this, but I do know what the healthy direction is, and it is counterintuitive at first. So let's really look into this. Let's understand what are some of our typical addictive, self-destructive, self-sabotaging behaviors for INFJs and how to find a healthy way out of it. So you're not only, surviving, you're actually thriving, because the kind of addictive behavior that you are already living, like once you recognize what this is, and very often it has to do with, being too much in our head and like living out fantasies and getting stuck on other people, limerence, all of that. Once we recognize this, it gives us such an indication of what we need to do to create a healthy, cycle in our life that is sustainable, that gets us excited about life, and it really allows us to get to the next level. So before we get started, remember, if you haven't done this so far, to download the free poster on the INFJ Epic Life formula. So this is all about tapping into your INFJ Epic Life. This is specifically tailored for INFJ. So I really encourage you to check this out. And if you want to take it to the next level, if you say, now is my time, I don't want to waste any more of it, then get the INFJ Epic Life audio guide, because it will help you how to start living your INFJ Epic Life, how to know what you want, how to have progress in your life, and in a way of, I want to stick to this. This isn't just like, oh, I'm getting excited and then I fall back into old habits, but actually having something which you don't want to let go of, so it continuously gets better. That's what you're going to get from the audio guide. So everything you need to know, you can find in the links in the description, and I really recommend you check it out and you start living your INFJ Epic Life today. So when it comes to self-destructive, self-sabotaging, and addictive behavior for INFJs, we always come back to the fact that we're introverts, meaning most of the time and most of the unhealthy ways of us going through life is that we overuse our first and our third function. So our introverted intuition and our introverted thinking. And that means that we self-regulate from living out fantasies in our life, no matter what they are. So that means that we are living in a world where we feel like we don't have control over the external one, where we feel like I need to pay close attention to this one person in my life because I feel alive during that. I feel alive when I engage in all of those behaviors that give me a quick fix, that make me feel like, I'm living out something. Very often the thing that we want to feel the least is, peace and nothingness, because you rather want to feel alive than not feel anything. And that's exactly where we need to look at. Because why are we engaging in those unhealthy behaviors? We're engaging in those unhealthy behaviors because they give us quick fixes. We get a dopamine hit if we continuously, get engaged with somebody who doesn't treat us the way we want. We get a dopamine hit if we, as I said, leave the door wide open to friends living out all of their unhealthy behaviors around us. And we're the bystanders. We're not changing them. We're actually helping them and maybe even enabling them and not encouraging them to stop their unhealthy behavior. We're rather saying, you're good the way you are, and I'm going to make you feel good, although you have some negative tendencies within you. Most of the time, we surround ourselves with people who have some kind of negative tendencies, and they might let them out on us. And we feel like, who am I to tell them what to do with their life? But that's the wrong approach to it, right? Because, I always say, if the way you live life satisfies you, if the way you live life excites you, if it makes you feel euphoric and all is good, no need to watch those videos. No need to change anything. But if you say, I don't want to live the way I live now. Everything that I have created so far is based on the thought processes that I've done so far. It's based on the behavior that I've done so far. And I'm super thankful for everything that I've created in my life so far, but I want more. I want better. I want to feel more alive. I want to feel more excited about life. I want to feel like I'm tapping into my potential. Then we have to look at it from the perspective of, I have addictive behaviors like everybody else because it feels like I'm in pain, and this is a way to self-regulate. This is a way to self-soothe. This is a way for me to feel better in the moment. And all of that is based on the fact that we're not doing something that is hard at first, but it's going to give us long-term benefits. And I'm not just talking about, okay, I'm going to have a much better paying salary next year. I'm talking about emotions. I'm talking about like dopamine and serotonin and how all of those things are called. The things that make us feel happy, that make us feel excited about life. All of those things. Like even, and I've looked into Dario Nardi's work and, he's also talked about Helen Fisher. I think it comes from Helen Fisher. But the point is, I'm not an expert at this at all. But still, as INFJs, there's still some of those things that differ. So some of us are more prone to go after dopamine. Some of us are more prone to go after serotonin, and so on. Again, I'm not an expert on this. Don't quote me on this. It's not necessary in order to get this point. The point is, though, that we have needs. There are, those things that make us feel excited, that make us feel like this is who I am. This is the kind of emotion I'm going after, right? This is the kind of effect it has on my brain. And the quick fixes, most of the time, are not the healthy ones. And how do those quick fixes look for us? For us INFJs, they look like living in our head, daydreaming, being in our fantasy world. And so that does not mean that we have to be in the real world every day, all the time, and neglect our inner world, because our inner world is who we are. We are introverts. Our first function is introverted intuition. This is, in essence, who we mainly are, but it's not all of who we are. We do have our extroverted functions. We are not just introverts. We do need part of our extroverted functions, and we need those extroverted functions in a proactive way, in any kind of way. It doesn't have to be much. For every single one of us, it's a different combination. Some people need more of the FE world. Some people do less, but we still need all of it. We can't just be just in our head. Same for extroverts, they can't just be outside all the time. They also need to find an inner world that gives them the balance, because you can't expect to get all of your needs met while contacting the outside world, from the perspective of extroverts. They also need to have a part that allows them to create, an emotional response and getting their needs met through being by themselves and through introspection, whatever that might look like. Same thing for us INFJs, just in reverse. We can't expect to get all of our needs met while staying in our introverted functions. But if we would tap into our extroverted functions more, what would that mean? For an INFJ, most of the time, this is the biggest fear surrounding that. We feel like if I tap more into my extroverted functions, it means the following. First off, if I create an emotional atmosphere, it's super draining. Like, that's difficult. Like, that doesn't feel good at all. Like, I have to mobilize myself all the time. Why would I go through life thinking, okay, so now I have to be hard all my life. I can't just be in my mind. That is the first fear. The second fear is that it's going to be super boring. Like, if I start creating a life based on who I am and where I'm going, and I'm not allowing other people's energy into my life, boring. I'm not going to get any quick fixes. I'm not going to feel alive. Remember, we talked about in the beginning, the worst fear is like not feeling anything. And that's what it starts out with. If you are a healthy version of an INFJ, your default state is boredom. And that boredom is actually inner peace. Who would have thought that? But the thing is this, in order for you to create healthy ways of getting your needs met, you need to actually tap into boredom. Because if you say, okay, I'm not going to get all my needs met through my fantasy living. So I'm not going to go into limerence. I'm not going to go into daydreaming about another person. I'm not going to go into daydreaming about how much better my life could be and this utopia in my head. But I actually understand I'm a full person. And a full person also connects to the real world. It also connects to other people. And that means that I have to ground myself one way or another. It doesn't have to be much. Like, I will never, ever be an ESTP. I will never be an ENFJ either. I will never be able to be completely grounded all the time in reality because my biggest strength is still my introvert intuition. Like, how can I neglect it? But we don't need to neglect that. We just have to think about the fact that we're probably overusing it. And this is not something that is, Wenzes came up with this great concept. This is like a very well-known thing. We always tend to overextend our first function. That's why, we create those immense idealistic scenarios and expect so much from another person and get disappointed because we expect so much from them, and for people to be, very idealistic just as us. And, all of those things, like we're not connecting with the real world. So all I'm saying is just don't overuse your introverted functions that much, because every single time I've done this, it has caused me a lot of pain. This is the typical NITI loop. So the first function and the third function as a loop. If you tend to go into your extroverted functions, this is the best way to get out of self-destructive and addictive behavior. Because if you know that, completely staying in your mind all the time or not putting everything that you can into your extroverted functions, you're doing two things. First off, you're not tapping into your potential because you have more to give to yourself, to, the world, whatever it may be, and you're not doing that because it's hard. And second of all, because you know that the other path is leading you to pain. We always tend to, and this is not just INFJs, I've experienced this with every single personality type. It's such a common thing to go way overboard with our first function. Again, this is not, me saying that. I don't know if it's like really defined by John Beebe or, whoever it may be. Like, it's a really well-known concept that every human being, when it comes to looking from the lens of personality type, we overuse our first function. And we also overuse our third function. And, you can't really focus on not doing something. This is the common thing of, don't think of a pink elephant. What are you thinking about the pink elephant? What we can do is to say, how much can I continuously put into the yellow rabbit? And the yellow rabbit in this case is FE and SE, being in the present moment. Creating an emotional atmosphere, sharing who we are with the world continuously, and not from a perspective of, I'm going to create something so then I can lead back, but to say, I'm going to continuously choose this. I'm going to anchor myself into reality. I'm going to connect with what is here right now. That doesn't mean I'll ever be another personality type. That will never mean that I'm giving up who I am. What I am doing, though, is I'm finding a healthy balance and I'm getting away from addictive behavior, because going really far in our first and our third function can be a super extreme gift. Like, this is, our superpower. We just don't want to take it too far. So maybe other people can go, let's say an ENFJ, for example. I like to give that example because, they're so close. Let's say an example of an ENFJ. Their perfect balance would be they go 20% into NI and into TI, and 80% into FE and SE. Their unhealthy balance, which they used to live, would be, let's say, 90% their extroverted functions and 10% their introverted functions. Just flip the script for ourselves. So if we, for example, do right now, 90% our introverted functions and 10% our extroverted functions, we all are tapping into our extroverted functions one way or another, but that's not all we could do, right? If we really would motivate ourselves, if we would really mobilize ourselves and say, I have to focus on the extroverted functions. I have to actually make them stronger. I have to get that bar from 10% to 15% and maybe even at 20%, right? If 20% would be the most we would ever be able to, we would feel great. Because then all of the knowledge, all of the insight that we get from our introverted functions, we can use that all to our benefit. But then we wouldn't go overboard and create those self-destructive behaviors, but say, I'm choosing as much boredom as I can, meaning I'm setting up boundaries. I'm letting people know who I am. I'm finding healthy outlets and helping people who actively want my help and who appreciate my teachings. Like whatever I bring to the table, they actually appreciate that because it's a very known outlet. This is how I show up. And if you are a beneficiary of my energy, that's how it's going to be. And it can be also with friends and with families, but not from a perspective of, oh, I'm giving up who I am, meaning I'm going overboard in NI, and that's how I want you to appreciate me for. No, I'm saying, in order for me to not fall into self-destructive, addictive behavior, going into my fantasy, self-regulating through that, I'm going to go the other direction because that is the more difficult one at first. But it's in that moment that you actually see, oh, I'm reaching my limit right now. And I'm going to push myself outside of my comfort zone. I'm going to mobilize myself to see how far I can take it and continuously do this. And it feels super unnatural because it feels fake. But it's not fake. It's just something that we avoid. It's another aspect of who we are. Every single person will actually understand you way better if you set up those boundaries, if you do things in the real world, if you start playing the game of life and not look at it from the perspective of, I'm this idealist and I see utopia in my mind and that's all great. Because again, if that worked, if that made you super happy and excited and fulfilled in life, please tell me how that works for you. Please, share the secrets with me. Share it with all of them. Do videos about this. Write a book. I would love to find the solution in there. But I haven't found it. I've gone overboard. I have, detached from reality way too often and felt completely horrible because I gave away the power of my narrative to other people. I gave the outside the power of how I feel about myself because that's what happens when you become just a sponge without any boundaries at all. And setting emotional states is a boundary setting. Being in the present as much as you can is something that allows you to take control over your life. And so for us INFJs, it's about understanding I can't do all the things. I don't have that much capacity. I'm not, an ESTP. I'm not even an ENFJ. My SE, not that strong, but I still need some of it. So that's why I always say we're INFJs. We don't have to do all the things. We just have to do the right things. So our superpower is NI, meaning our vision, knowing what we ultimately want, and this doesn't have to be something practical. It's an image. It's, an understanding. It's a fantasy, whatever it may be. And saying, how can I, create a life that is more and more in alignment with that? Because through that, you're actually really sharing your gift. Because people see you for the first time, because every time you open up your boundaries, they're not able to see you. They're not able to really be inspired by you. Your self-sacrifice will never inspire people that much as it would be, you showing up for the causes that are important for you, making the choices in your life that represent what matters most to you. So for me, that meant when I stepped into my extroverted functions more, that I wasn't able to, do all the things I used to do before. I stopped going to parties, not that I ever went to so many, but like say in my 20s, I really gave up on a lot of social interactions because I just couldn't handle it, right? I had to really put all my energy in the things that mattered most to me. That's when I started doing the channel. And at the beginning, this wasn't a business. This was something that I additionally did, something that required additional time, something that I put money into it because it was my way of adding something to my life that allowed me to have a healthy outlet for who I was. It was about me deciding what are the important steps in my life? What are the things that I want? And for me, that was I want to be independent. I want to live out, the relationships that I want. I want to protect my inner peace. And I want to get away from those addictive and self-destructive behaviors, which are very often I self-regulate through fantasy. I put others on a pedestal and I think really greatly of them. I think about them all the time. And to say, no, if that person doesn't play a role in my future of where I'm going, and I'm the one who decides where I'm going because that's what SE in combination with NI really does, then I'm not going to think about them. And I'm going to challenge myself to, focus on the yellow rabbit as much as possible, knowing that I can't force myself to remove my thoughts about the pink elephant. So a person that you continuously think about, some ideal world in which everybody understands you and everybody values you, and to look at reality and to say, everybody's concerned with their own problems. What can I bring to the world to make the world a better place? How can I translate parts of who I am to people that will benefit from that? And to say, how can I bring value? How can I make the world a better place while I take care of myself? While I start creating a better life for me. So I can inspire by example, so I can teach, so I can make people feel good, but not at the expense of my own well-being. And in order to make sure that I am well, I have to tap into my extroverted functions. No matter how uncomfortable and inauthentic it feels, it's not. There's a reason why we get attracted to people who may go overboard in, those extroverted functions, because they are living out the thing that we're not living out enough. Let's tap into them. Because if you know that in order to create real excitement in your life, you have to first off set the bar at boredom to say, I get the quick fixes through, self-regulating behavior as in fantasies and whatever it is. For other people who might not be INFJs, but also INFJs, it may be drugs or, binge watching Netflix. Yeah, it feels great at first, but it's not long-term satisfaction, right? And to say, if I set the bar in the real world, right? So I actually lean into my extroverted functions because that will never mean that I give up on my introverted. It means I'm going to create as much balance as I possibly can, even if that means that right now it's 95 to 5 and I'm going to push it to 90 to 10, right? But I know myself. I'm the only one who really knows myself. I know where I'm at and I know how hard it is for me to create something in the external world, to be grounded in that, to set anchors in. And then, when this is hard and uncomfortable and boring, it's in that place that you've actually planted yourself and you can create something that is sustainable, that allows you to create a system that is continuously having an energetic exchange that allows you to continuously grow in energy while giving to others. So this is the thing of my cup of energy is overflowing and that cup gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So I feel better and therefore I can give more to others. So that means my energetic cup is full and, there's always more energy coming back. So there's also more that I can give. And every single time I can give more, I'm going to get more back. Right? And this is the sustainable thing. This is something where you feel like once you started that process, once that ball starts rolling, once it's like this dynamo effect, you don't want to stop. And that's what all my teachings are about. That's what the audio guide is about. That's what the bootcamp is based on, is how can I anchor myself into reality, create something that is sustainable, actually have an impact on other people while doing what is best for me. So not at the expense of who I am, but while I'm being me, I'm actually inspiring people through my example of making sure that I balance myself. And you'll see how this is something that will create completely new dynamics with people in your life. There's so many people that I had close to me, and there was always some passive aggressive energy there. The moment I started setting emotional states, as in like FE, I'm going in there and I'm saying, this is the kind of emotional atmosphere we're going to live by. Pretty much, this is what I bring to the table. I'm not saying, you're not going to overpower me, but I'm not going to just diminish who I am. This is who I am. You want me in your vicinity, you have to protect my boundaries. I'm the one who has to say, these are my boundaries. This is what I want. And if somebody oversteps them a little bit, I'm going to let people know about it. I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to say, oh, okay, they just couldn't handle me, so I'm just going to, make myself small. But it's like to say, if people want something from me, it's on me to tell them, I can't give it to you. I don't feel good giving that to you. I need, my personal space. I need to feel good about myself, and that's it. And that's a necessity for me to show up in the best way. Instead of saying, how can I make myself the most boring version of myself as possible, or the most that is in alignment with what you want, so you don't want something from me and I'm required to give it to you, right? It's okay for people to want things from you. It's on us to say, no, not happening. Doesn't really create a win-win for me. I want to give, I want to share, but only while I feel my best. And so that's why I always encourage you, check out the poster, get the audio guide. When the next bootcamp comes around, join our bootcamp, because we go really, really deep in all of those things. It really allows you to create a life on your terms that is sustainable, that is fun, that is exciting, where you feel like you're tapping into your potential, and knowing that just because it feels hard, just because it feels boring, just because it feels like it's something that is going to require so much of you, that doesn't mean that it isn't the solution to it all. Because if you would look at the stereotypical addict, of course, it's much easier for that person to, take the drug again. It's way, way harder to say, I'm never going to do that again. It's still the best choice though. And so you don't have to look and think of it in such extremes. But it's a great example to understand that just because something feels uncomfortable at first, that doesn't mean that this isn't the solution to all our problems, because in many cases it is. So if you haven't done this continuously and you say, I'm going to show up every day again, I'm going to fight every single day until this new pathway has been created. Another metaphor I like to give here is this typical thing of, you're in a cornfield and all your life you've gone down this path. This path is already, flat. It has been walked on millions of times. Creating a new pathway is going to require time. It's going to require effort. It's going to require strength, because you have to create the pathway. You have to lay it flat. The first times going through it is going to be hard because you need to, create more space for yourself. But at some point, it's created, and then it works on autopilot. And now it's leading you to something which continuously creates amazing results for yourself. So just because something is hard in the beginning, it doesn't mean that it will stay that way, or that it will feel that hard. Because maybe it is that hard, but you will just have more and more energy, so it will feel easier. And you will know that you're on the right path. So remember, check out the poster, check out the audio guide, start doing those things if you're ready to take steps. Today, everything you need to know, you can find in the links in the description. And if you want to watch another video now that is in alignment with today's topic, then check out the video you see on the screen right now. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.